The city of Sololá is 126 kilometers from Guatemala City in Central America. It is 9 kilometers away from Lake Atitlan, known as the most beautiful lake in the world. The weather there is chilly, at an elevation of 2,276 meters above sea level. Temperatures range between 12 and 17 degrees centigrade, and to almost 5 degrees in December and January. This population has registered a Hispanic presence since 1541. The Sololá natives are part of the Maya Cachiquel people, with approximately 1,300,000 inhabitants. They represent 17% of Guatemala's population according to the 2018 census from the Guatemala National Institute of Statistics. The distinctive Maya attire worn by many adults and elderly people is of two different kinds: for everyday use or for ceremonial use. The everyday attire is worn to carry out domestic, agricultural, and commercial chores, and we can appreciate it in the photographs from 1970s and 2009 respectively. It consists of a modern-style shirt, a curzon or wesh, which is the pants, and the sherca, or rodillera, which is a wool cloth panel wrapped around the waist. This polychromy is the attire emerged in Guatemala in the mid-20th century with the industrialization of thread and yarn manufacturing. The everyday attire is complemented with a jacket called xialx in the Cachiquel language, a hat and a shoulder bag called peques, which is used to carry around personal objects, as we can see in the photo on the right. They also wear leather sandals, which are nowadays being substituted by industrially manufactured shoes. The ceremonial attire is worn by members of the cofradías. These garments distinguish men as religious and community authorities. They cover their head with a kind of cloth called sute. A large one is placed over the back and the chest. They also wear a necklace made with antique coins and a crucifix, and they carry the cofradías insignia on their hand. In the photos, we see two men who have held the office of Camosh Bey, which means the one who shows the way, and refers to a man who has gained experience and prestige and has earned respect and authority through his service to the community since his youth. Other pieces that make up the ceremonial attire are the jerga, or numa sherca, which the man who holds the office of regidor wears over his left shoulder. Look at the photo on the right. They also wear a palm leaf hat, which is painted black and decorated with floral ribbons to bring to mind those made and worn in Austria and Switzerland in the 19th century. Only the cofrades wear the gabán or cabano over the jacket. Over the curzon or wesh, they also wear the split over trouser or estemella made of black wool, which you can see in the photo to the right. It has lateral openings on the hips and is held in place with a sash with brocaded ends and is tied in the front. In the center photo, we see a regidor. He is distinguished by his attire because he is wearing the numa sherca or jerga over the left shoulder, a sute over his head with two ends tied on the front, and the black hat over the sute. In the photograph on the right, we see two alguaciles, who can be identified as such because they are wearing the sute as a neckerchief, the split over trousers or estemella with the legs rolled up under the sherca or rodillera, and the staff that denotes authority. In this photograph, we can notice the difference between the attire for everyday use worn by the person to the left and the acting cofrade on the right. In Maya communities, kissing the hand or drawing it to the forehead is a respectful greeting. The person who is younger or has lower rank or position of authority always greets the eldest. Now let's go back in time. In the photograph to the left, we see two mayordomos from the cofradia from the beginning of the 20th century. The ceremonial attire was composed of a jacket or chial closed in the front, a sute with checkered designs on the head, a xerca placed around the waist over the white curson or wesh without any decorative brocades. To the right, two cofrades who can be distinguished because they are wearing the split over trousers or estamella with the legs stretched out. Next, we see two alcaldes or regidores with an estamella rolled up to the waist according to the dress code of Sololás religious hierarchy. This was the attire for everyday use in Sololá during the first decades of the 20th century. Predominantly white shirt and pants. In the center photograph, one person is not wearing a xerca or rodillera around the waist and is instead carrying it folded over the shoulder bag or morral. This makes me think that at the time, people would take off this wool garment during the hours of sun and intense heat. It's just a personal hypothesis, but we need to continue this to study. The pants were calf length. On the left of this watercolor painted by Carmen Petersen, we can see, in color, the attire we saw in the black and white pictures from before. Notice that the design of the fabric from the shirt and pants was the same. The woman's huipil and the man's shirt have red sleeves. The man wore a sash tied on the front to keep the xerca in place. This way of wearing it has disappeared, and as we will see later. In the center, in this circa 1935 oil painting from Guatemalan artist Humberto Garavito, we can see that the white curson and the shirt called yuchun tsiak were still worn. The shirt was closed in the front, very similar to a huipil. Around 1960, in the photograph on the right, we can observe that the Sololá attire had already acquired its current characteristics. A jacket open on the front, a predominant curson red with abundant brocades, and a xerca held in place with a leather belt, not a tied sash. I would also like to mention that Carmen Petersen's watercolor, painted in 1972, show exactly the attire that was worn in Sololá in 1930. But how did Sololá's current Maya attire originate? Here we see a hypothetical reconstruction of the pre-Hispanic Maya attire worn in warm climates around 1480. The Maya did not wear pants, but a machtate. The word is derived from the Nahuatl term maxtatl, which was a panel of cloth that was wrapped between the legs and waist, and was tied at the back or the front. They also protected themselves from the sun and the cold with a cape, tilma or manta, which were garments that were usually made of cotton. This drawing by Mario Velázquez from the book Mayan Clothing and Weaving Through the Ages, published by the Ixchel Museum, reconstruct the attire of Maya principal or merchants at the beginning of the 17th century. According to Relación de la Provincia de la Verapaz, written by friars from Santo Domingo, Cobán, by 1574, the use of camisas and saragüeyes had already spread amongst the indigenous population. What were the saragüeyes? They were wide, loose-fitting breeches of Muslim influence worn by Spanish peasants. They provided mobility and comfort for agricultural tasks. On the right, a huertano or campesino from Murcia, Spain, around 1870, is wearing saragüeyes. In other parts of Spain, like Aragon, the term saragüeyes was used to refer to the white calzoncillos that could be seen hanging down from under the pants' legs. Sololá's wesh, or curson, is made of two cloth panels woven on a backstrap loom, each measuring 1.5 meters in length and 30 centimeters in width. These two pieces are cut in half to create 4 pieces that form the 2 legs, as we can see in the photo to the left. Traditionally, these trousers are made by the mother, the wife, daughter, or granddaughter of the male wearing them. They weave and embroider them with love, dedication, and personal taste so that their loved ones can proudly wear them and stand out in the community. Maria Shara used to weave with such affection. My admiration and gratitude go out to her. Maya garments are made of rectilinear panels of cloth. The quality of the yarn and decorations reflect the user's economic status, as well as their position in the social and religious hierarchy. Now, the wesh or curson has an intensely red or black background and 5 to 6 lines or small embroidered or brocaded figures in each leg, which makes a total of 120 figures. On the upper right, we see a detail from the leg of a machine-embroidered wesh. Below, we see a wesh that was hand-brocaded using the double-face technique, which means that the figure is identical on both sides of the fabric. It's considered a weaver's finest, most delicate and perfect work. The wesh, or curson, is wide. It is made in a single size, not in different sizes as with industrially manufactured clothing. It does not have an elastic waist, nor belt loops, pockets, buttons, or a zipper in the fly. It varies from calf to ankle length. It is adjusted to the waist by folding it in the front. The wesh is held up by a sash that is approximately 2 meters long, which is wrapped around the waist several times. Other users prefer to forgo the sash and adjust the pants by folding the upper part, as we can see in photo number 4. The sherca, wa'a, or rodillera is worn over the wesh. Some researchers consider that this garment has its origins in the Maya pre-Columbian hip cloth, which was a square piece of cloth that was folded in half to form a triangle that was tied around the waist. To the right is a figure from the Dresden Codex wearing a hip cloth. In the colonial period, the sherca began to be made of wool, which is why some erroneously think that this garment is of Spanish influence. The sherca is adjusted from the back to the front. The upper edge is placed above the waist, as in the picture on the left. A fold is done in one of the ends, above which the other end is placed from the user's comfort and movement. Currently, a leather belt is used to hold the sherca in place. The upper edge of the rodillera, as this garment is also called, is turned upside down over the belt to create this final appearance, as in the photo of the right. At the beginning of the 20th century, this garment was held in position with a fabric sash, as we were able to appreciate before in Carmen Peterson's watercolor. Here we see the way the sherca is worn. The cofrade, Santo's ship, in the center picture is wearing it without folding the upper edge downwards, leaving the leather belt uncovered. On the right, we see the sherca from the back view of the body. Let us now learn about the yuchun tsiak on the left. It was very similar to the huipil. It had a collar and puckered cuffs that hung at mid-arm's length. It was made in a very similar way to the wesh, by simply joining 4 panels of cloth woven on a backstrap loom, as shown in the lower part of this garment. It was worn in Sololá until 1960, after which it became a shirt. To the right, a detail of a yuchun tsiak made in 1948 for a religious image. The shirt as we know it today was introduced in Sololás departmental capital around 1940 by merchants from San Juan La Laguna, which is another municipality in this department. On the left is a cuchillada style shirt. On the right, we see the style known as doble floreado, with a frontal zipper made of fabric using the jaspe technique, known as ikat in other countries. It is a resist dyeing technique that was already in use in Guatemala by the end of the 19th century, according to the researcher Rosario Miralbes de Polanco. From the Yuchunsiac came the shirt known as híbrida, a mix of Mayan and European elements. It incorporates long sleeves with gussets, collar, and cuffs, buttoned and with a zipper in the front and pockets and fitted to the body. These are styles made by local tailors since 1960. These shirts are characterized by ornaments or application of ribbons with designs, among which there is the heart, as shown in the case of the person on the left. Flowers in the center photo, or piquitos, as shown by the elderly man on the right. The xialx is worn over the shirt. In the 20th century, it was made using blue wool and a white background. Later, it changed to black wool. The garment we see on the left is the style that was worn until 1960. It's closed on the front with a short waist-length fit. This kind of garment was worn by Spanish farmers in the 17th century. To the right is a version of the xialx from around 1960, made with natural wool yarn. It transformed into an open front jacket. The xialx evolves the xicoyi, a kind of jacket worn by the pre-Hispanic Maya. On the right, we see evidence of the xicoyi, highlighted in red for educational purposes. On the figure, in the Dresden Maya Codex, chronicler Bernal Díaz del Castillo wrote that on the 4th of March of 1517, the Spanish ships were boarded by natives wearing the cotton jackets, that is, xicoyi. They covered their modesty with narrow cloths they called masteles, that is, mashtates. In the photographs on the left and center, we see the use of xialx, now chaqueta, with decorations on the sleeves and front. It's worn by a man who was a local authority in 1880, and marimba players from Sololá in 1930. On the right is a photograph that shows the jacket worn by a young man from Anzó, Huesca, Aragon, Spain, in 1930. Notice the similarities between the decorations on both garments. This is the version of the xialx made with white wool fabric woven on a treadle loom. It's now tailored with an anatomical cut, not rectilinear like the Maya concept. The design remains without flaps. The white jacket is widely used among young and adult men. By 1940, the black open front jacket was already in use. This color is reserved for the elderly and those who serve in cofradías and alcaldías indígenas. On the back of this garment, there's a depiction of a bat, Tzotzil in Cachique language, as seen in the photo on the left. It represents the lineage of this Maya group mentioned in the Memorial de Sololá, document written around 1560. Later, figures of the hawk and the quetzal bird, Guatemala's national symbol, were adopted, as shown in the photo on the right. Currently, this garment features 4 external pockets and 4 internal ones in the chest area. These are very useful, considering that the wesh or curson lacks pockets. The footwear used by the men of Sololá is called shahab in the Kaqchikel language, commonly known as kaites. This type of sandal, with small variation, is depicted on stone monuments from the classic Maya period. The shahab was widely used among the Maya peoples of Guatemala until 1970. Now it has been replaced by shoes and synthetic sports footwear. The soles are now made from the rubber extracted from discarded vehicle tires, an ideal option for recycling environmentally harmful materials. The insoles and straps are made of raw cowhide, with metal buckles to adjust them to the foot. They are very comfortable, affordable, and highly durable. Sandals for ceremonies or rituals are also made of raw leather, with abundant decorations and thick white foam soles. They're handmade by artisans from Chichicastenango, Quiché, a department neighboring Sololá. This footwear is exclusively for members of cofradías, indigenous authorities, and elders of recognized honorability who have held up positions in the community's civil religious service hierarchy. These type of sandals are usually worn without socks. They have heel straps and open toes for ventilation. They include a feature between the soles that produces a squeaking sound when walking, which in the Kaqchikel language is known as cajan, and as cachawik in the Quiché language, which could be translated as to speak or to be heard. Maya men's clothing is becoming less common in Guatemala. Nowadays, young people are abandoning the Maya attire, as seen in the case of the young man wearing an orange t-shirt and jeans in the photo on the left. This contrasts with Guatemalans born in the 20th century, as shown in the photo on the right, who found their attire to be a valuable and important element of national identity. Respect for and use of the Maya attire is learned at home. It is the responsibility of parents to promote this cultural practice. Maya men's clothing is disappearing due to the influence of global fashion, discrimination, social prejudice, and financial constraints, but especially due to the disregard of new generations and the government's lack of interest in strengthening national culture and identity. I invite men who see this presentation to experience wearing the Maya attire of Sololá. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "I am the first exponent of my proposal. I believe the same." Thank you for your attention.